Hello and welcome to the number one episode of the Indy Power Rankings. Now we've actually been around since early January of this year, but this is our first video edition. For those of you who don't read, who I don't judge, and I don't blame you because I don't feel like reading half the time anyway. I'm Travis.
My name's Vic.
And I'm actually known as the guy who Kevin Steen took a shoe and beat Jay Briscoe with and threw it across the Dayton Arena for Ring of Honor.
Now he scares him to death.
He's always scared me. But that's not what this show's about. This show is actually about ranking the best independent wrestlers week to week. Now look, we're not in on the business. We're not going to sit here and break kayfabe. We're not going to tell you, Eddie Edwards is the best worker. No, we're not going to do that. What we're going to do is we're going to talk from the perspective of win-loss records. And damn it, if you're going to present wrestling as a sport, that's what matters. So week to week, the way it works is the wrestlers with the best records for that week, and this is cumulative, meaning if you've got a 6-0 record over 2 weeks, well, you've got a good chance of being number one for the next week or for that week. This is kind of something that ESPN started with the NFL and college basketball, and for a brief time they had a WWE Power Rankings. Now what we're doing is we're trying to get indie wrestlers' names out there in the same way by giving them the credit they deserve for going across the indies. And you have to think about something. Most indies don't run every week, so indies that or wrestlers that get to go lots of places and can have a consistent win-loss record, a consistently good win-loss record, are going to have the best chances of getting ranked. And, since we've been doing this for the last 6 months or so, we've gotten a lot of strange number ones, a lot of strange different ranks. So we ranked the 1 through 10 for the week, and this is the week of July 8th, 2013. And we'll just go ahead and do it in countdown format. Now, like I said, this is the first show of it. You can catch us on Twitter, and we'll get into that later. And we've got a website and a Facebook page. So thank you for those of you who have been following us on Twitter. We really appreciate it, and we appreciate the support. It actually takes more work than you can imagine. There's a lot of indies out there, and there's a lot of people working in them. And not every indie has a website, and props to you guys who do. And not every indie has a Facebook page, and props to you guys who do. And not every indie will give us results, and that sucks. But, some have their reasoning. So, without further ado, this week's number 10 in the Indy Power Rankings is Green Ant. So, Shakara, whether it has shut down or not, continues rolling under the Wrestling Is banner. And over the weekend, Green Ant actually picked up 2 wins at Wrestling Is Awesome as he defeated, and I might pronounce the name wrong because I've actually yet to see one of their shows, Jaka, Jaka. You probably have no idea how to pronounce it either. And so I'm sorry if I offended you, and you're probably better than that, and I apologize. And Cobalt, and I hopefully I didn't screw up your name. And that was on 7-6 and 7-7. And now Green Ant, he's won 7 of 8 overall, which has actually got him to number 10 in the Indy Power Rankings. Number 9 this week is a tag team, which we do rank tag teams as one spot as long as they're doing the things that they're doing as a tag team. We're not just going to throw 2 people together just because they had a good weekend. But anyway, the number 9 spot is the Bravado brothers, Lancelot and Harlem Bravado. They actually got, as far as we know, the first taste of gold that they've had as a tag team on 7-5 at FIP when they won a 3-way tag team title match versus Dos Pendejos and KOA, Sugar Dunkerton, and Aaron Epic to run their recent record to 4 out of the last 5. So basically, since they've left Ring of Honor, this tag team that really wasn't getting much respect there went to Noah to harness their skills, have been getting a hell of a run with the Dragon Gates and the FIPs and the Evolve promotion. So this marks actually their first appearance in the Indy Power Rankings, short IPR. So if you hear us say IPR, you know what the hell we're talking about.
Hashtag it.
That's right. So number 8 this week, and this is surprisingly his first appearance for somebody who has been up and down the Indies. We've been watching him since 2001 maybe?
2001, 2002.
Yep.
2001, I believe. Is when
A
we
no
started
longer young kid from Chicago, a man who had a cup of coffee in the WWE for a short time.
about half a cup of coffee.
Yeah, the runner of the Art of Wrestling podcast, that's Colt Cabana. He actually had a hell of a weekend. He went to ECCW in Canada, and I'm about to butcher names again, but he teamed with Artemis Spencer and Ravenous Randy to defeat Gods and Ice on July 5th. And then he defeated Bishop in singles competition on July 6th. Then he went to Mexico for WWL on July 7th and actually defeated, and this was talked about on his podcast, he defeated El Hijo de Fishman, who apparently is the son of a fish. Yeah, and like I said, surprisingly, this is his first Indy Power Rankings appearance. And the funny thing about that is, I think what happens with guys like Colt Cabana is some of the smaller indies will bring him in, to take on their top guy, and obviously the top guy ends up winning for whatever reasons, political or otherwise. So that is what it is. But yeah, this is his first time in here, and he definitely won't be in there in the month of August unless he goes crazy in Scotland, because he's going to be in Scotland for a full month doing a comedy tour.
Oh, wow.
So good for him. Number 7 this week is actually the another tag team, and they're a former number 1 in the Indy Power Rankings, the former ROH World Tag Team Champions, the American Wolves, Davey Richards and Eddie Edwards. And the results were kind of sketchy here. Davey told me that they've won, they went 3-1 over the weekend, but all the records I found were not exactly on par with what was said. But I do know this much: they went to Mexico. They did pretty well there. They actually wrestled each other in a couple of 6-man tags. Regardless, because of their past success and because they went to Mexico and actually won matches, which doesn't happen very often for American stars, especially American stars who aren't huge names, and that's no disrespect to the Wolves, because damn, we're big fans of, especially Eddie Edwards, Davey too. It's difficult to win there. So anyway, they are the number 7 spot this week after being a former number 1. So they're on their way up. And in fact, in the United States, since they've begun teaming again, do you know who their only losses to? The ROH World Tag Team Champions, Red Dragon. So, and actually, they're the only team to beat Red Dragon, unless I'm missing something, and I don't think I am. So
that's pretty impressive.
And credit to CageMatch.net and WrestlingData.com, because those two are awesome sites for finding people's win-loss records. I check it every single day because, in order to do this, you have to know what the hell people are doing across the U.S., and those sites are fantastic for finding those things. Now, number 6 is making his second appearance in the Indy Power Rankings, and thanks to him for sending us the results of these, Adam Thornstowe. He is the QPW, the Quintessential Pro Wrestling, and APW, All Pro Wrestling, Universal Champion. He successfully defended his Universal title over the weekend in a 3-way versus B-Boy and Jekyll's the Jester. Now, that sounds like a 1-0 weekend. Maybe it wouldn't be such a big deal, but he had also won a couple weeks ago the QPW title tournament, and he beat, I believe, Kevin Steen, Brian Cage, and I'm missing the other name right now, but you're talking about the top names in the sport right now, top names in indie wrestling at least. Guys that, honestly should be getting paid big money.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that show was stacked with talent out of this world.
Yeah, and for Adam Thornstowe, who, and I don't say this as any disrespect to him, a guy that most indie fans don't know. In fact, I wrote an article jointly on 911wrestling.com, and Adam Thornstowe was one of the top 10 wrestlers in independent wrestling that you don't know, that you should know. And again, Adam Thornstowe, you can follow him on Twitter, RockLegendScum. So number 5, another relative unknown, except in the Midwest, a guy who we've been following closely. We've seen him on some local shows. We've seen him pop up all over the place lately, and we're waiting for him to get his big break somewhere. And he's been in a couple strong style tournaments, and he's a damn good talent, damn good. Number 5 is Christian Rose. If you don't know him, follow him at BitterLunatic on Twitter. He's winner of at least, and I say at least because, again, when you're wrestling in smaller promotions in the Midwest, it's kind of hard to find results. The guy was wrestling in South Dakota a few weeks ago, for God's sake. But I will give him credit. He is actually really good about giving us results, and so it keeps us up to date. We've got our database updated every week with his win-loss. So, like I said, he's won at least 4 straight at various promotions around the Midwest. This is actually his first appearance in the Indy Power Rankings. He's come really close before, but for whatever reason, maybe he had a weekend where there are 3 Ring of Honor shows, like there are this weekend going on right now, or maybe a tournament that's just kept him right out of it. But this week he makes it in with a victory at UWC and Pro Wrestling Glory. Trust me, keep an eye on this guy. He's going to be moving up the ranks, and if you want to know the truth, he's got my vote to be in the Ted Petty Invitational
That's
on
what I was about to say. If you've ever seen this guy, or if you haven't, go to Facebook and go to the Ted Petty Invitational, or the event page for the TPI this year, and support Christian Rhodes, because the dude is awesome, and he's going to make big waves through the whole independent scene.
Yeah.
He should be number 24. Ian, I hope you're listening to this.
Yep. So trust me on this. Like he's going to be there. He's going to be somebody you're hearing about in the next 2 years, hopefully sooner if he gets the breaks that I'm hoping he does.
You heard it here first.
Yeah, Dreamwave Wrestling. He's got a show, I believe, tonight. We're taping on Saturday, July 14th.
Yeah.
I don't know. I've been out of town. 13th. July 13th. But yes, he has a show tonight, and he's facing somebody else who's been an honorable mention in the past, Prince Mustafa Ali, who's a hell of a talent in his own right, and I believe he's actually in TPI.
So he just returned not too long ago. I mean, he retired for a little bit, but he'll be back, or he's been back for a little bit now, and he will be in the TPI.
Kind of interesting stuff, and like I said, both of them really good Midwest talents. Wrestle in the Chicago area, Indiana. Christian Rose is heavily involved with some of the Wrestling Is promotions in Indiana that are going on right now. So like I said, keep your eyes out for him. Now, number 4, this is actually his first appearance in singles in the Indy Power Rankings. And he's actually had 2 straight undefeated weekends now in singles. He has been in here before with his tag team partner, Caprice Coleman. So one half of the CNC Wrestling Factory, Cedric Alexander, makes his first appearance in singles. He actually traveled to CWF Mid-Atlantic over the weekend, and I'm assuming that's not a very far drive for him because he's a North Carolina-based wrestler. And he scored a win over Brandon Day, so like I said, make his first appearance in the Indy Power Rankings. And something about this that I think that I should mention is that it's really big when somebody like that goes to a company that maybe he doesn't get too many appearances in and scores a win over a guy like Brandon Day, who, as far as I know, gets many appearances there. Now, this could be the start of something for Cedric Alexander there. He could get a lot of appearances there. But the point is, it's tough when you're an indie wrestler to go in, especially if you're a decently big name, and win in one of these promotions. So props to him. Number 4, Cedric Alexander. The number 3 this week is a guy who, his highest Indy Power ranking, and he's done it a couple times, is number 2. So he's only 1 spot behind his high. It looked like he might have gotten to number 1 this week, but some things happened. So number 3, a guy that you can see an interview with, 10 Questions with Jonathan Gresham in the new 911wrestling.com magazine, which will come out next month, I believe. Maybe later on this month. I can't guarantee when press time will come, but yeah, it'll be the August issue. So, but yeah, Jonathan Gresham, who I'm sure a lot of you have seen from CZW. He's a little lightweight. He used to be more of a high flyer, but now he's turned into kind of a little strong style.
Yeah, I think he's like
kind of Japan.
Yeah, he's doing a lot of time in Japan. He spends a lot of time in 0-1. Hell, he holds like 7 other titles.
He's actually speaking of, he's the quadruple junior heavyweight champion for 0-1. He's got the one that runs out of St. Louis. He's got the one in Japan. He's won a tournament that comes with the title belt, and there's another title that comes with it.
So you can really tell that his style has adapted to the Japanese style.
Yep. And he actually he had a successful title defense on a FIP show on July 5th versus Lindsay Dorado, who's another guy who's gotten really close to the Indy Power Rankings in the past with performances and Evolve. Former Chitara mainstay, Lindsay Dorado, look out for him. But yeah, Johnson Gresham took him down this week. So then we get to our number 2, and this is the second straight week being in the Indy Power Rankings. And it's a guy who I don't know how many of you are familiar with. I'm just getting familiar with him, and blame the fact that a lot of big promotions aren't using him like they should. But props to Beyond Wrestling, props to let's see, there's a lot of them. The Wrestling Is Promotions, Chikara was using them, Top Rope Promotions is using them. But anyway, it's Biff Busick, also known as Francis or Frank O'Rourke. He's the Top Rope Promotions heavyweight champion right now. He actually successfully defended his title in a steel cage match on July 5th versus Nick Steele. Then he took to his alter ego to Wrestling That's Awesome in Maine and scored a big win over Drew Gulak, who a lot of people are telling me it's just been awesome lately. I haven't seen any of his recent performances, but he's getting a lot of rave reviews. And then to go 3-0 on the weekend, he took down Hollow Wicked, also at Wrestling Is Awesome. So his record over the weekend was 3-0. You know how many he's won in a row now overall? At least 7. At least 7, because last weekend he actually won the Wrestling Is, I believe it's the Wrestling Is Respect quest for the best tournament. So, he's moving on up in the Indy Power Rankings. And I believe next week he will be taking on Eddie Edwards at the Beyond Wrestling show, American Rana. So we'll see if Biff can move up to number 1. However, and this is the big however, our number 1 this week is a man who's been at number 1 before, and he's a guy who has he's torn up the world. Let's face it. I mean, it's amazing to me that he's not with a huge company right now, whether it's TNA, WWE. He's with Dragon Gate, and that's what matters.
I first seen this guy when he was some little scrawny 18-year-old kid, I think, back in like 2004, 2005. And the only thing he was known for was he looked like Joe Kim Noah, and he could do a triple moonsault. I mean, I guess we know what we're talking about now. I mean, just seeing from the time I first watched this kid to where he is now, it's just amazing to me, man. Like you said, I'm surprised he's not signed by Vince or TNA or...
The talent, and this is us getting into editorializing, but it's true. I mean, if you've watched him, you know. The guy is just amazing. He's got talent, he's got charisma. What he may lack on the mic, he makes up for with a hell of a presence. But anyway, it's Ricochet, and he won 3 straight at Dragon Gate on the weekend. And I don't know how closely you guys follow the Dragon Gate results, but it's not easy to do that. There's so many 6-man tags, 4-ways, 6-ways, straight up tag team matches. It's not like going through and beating 3 scrubs. You have to beat like the top talent in the world. These Dragon Gate guys are no joke. And not only has he won 3 straight, you know how many he's won recently? 10 of 11. 10 of 11 matches overall. And he's the 2013 King of Gate, which is a Dragon Gate tournament. And this is his second time at number 1 in the Indy Power Rankings. And we'll see how he does at Dragon Gate this weekend. It's tough to keep that number 1 spot. Only a couple people have actually done that, where they repeated or three-peated in the number 1 spot. Johnny Gargano did it. Randy Royal did it. I can't think of too many others who have actually repeated. There's been a couple that have done it more than once. But, I believe Kevin Steen was number 1 more than once. But it's not easy. And trust me when we say there's no bias here. It's all like straight up. We're looking at wins and losses, strength of opponents, everything like that. And yes, you know, you can call us nerds, but you know what? If you like fantasy football, you're a nerd for that too. So, and I do like fantasy football for the record. Um, before we get into the people who had a good weekend, they just missed out. I'm going to tell you real quick some of the people that seem to be inactive this week, which pushed them to ineligible. So if you go a whole week without wrestling, you're just ineligible. That doesn't mean that you can't get in the next week. It just means you're not going to be in this week. So Jay Briscoe's out with what looks like a disgusting injury.
Oh.
What he's been wrestling with.
But it's horrible.
Props to you, Jay Briscoe. You're a bad man. John Morrison's another, and people say John Morrison. He actually is a former #1 in the Indy Power Rankings.
That's because when he wrestles, he don't lose.
You know, the only person he's lost to is Christian Rose at Dreamwave. Yeah, so, you know, Christian Rose, he's an up-and-comer, obviously. Michael Elgin, which you don't see a weekend off for him very often.
Yeah.
Eddie Kingston, if he is still Grand Chikara champ, if it still exists. He hasn't been really active lately. A.R. Fox, I think, was inactive again. I couldn't find anything on where he's wrestled. Roderick Strong didn't seem to wrestle. And when you heard that squeak, it was one of my dogs. I apologize. But we're in Studio B, which is B for basement. And of course, the CNC Wrestle Factory as a team were inactive because generally they only team in Ring of Honor. Speaking of Cedric Alexander, he's actually wrestling Matt Hardy, I believe, tonight. And it's like a peach festival in South Carolina. So, again, this is the links that we go to find what people are doing. Matt Hardy actually tweeted that out, but Danny Havoc's another, and you might say, Danny Havoc, he's a garbage wrestler. You go ahead and say that, but he won the Tournament of Death this year, and, you know, when you win tournaments like that, you get a spot in the Indy Power Rankings. It's just like that. So, and again, before we get into the just missing out, I wanted to go over something with you. You might wonder, why is a guy like Ricochet getting in? He's wrestling in Japan, and you guys talk about how this is a U.S. Indies thing. And it is. However, Ricochet wrestles enough in the U.S. that we feel justified in ranking him here. Now, somebody that wouldn't, and I don't mean, again, I've used this word about 6 times, but I don't mean any disrespect towards him, but like Alex Shelley. I don't know when the last time Alex Shelley wrestled in the U.S. was. He's been wrestling in New Japan for so long, and good for him, by the way.
Yeah,
I mean, hell, I'd love to live in Japan, eat Japanese food all the time.
Japanese food?
I was waiting on that. But yeah, I mean, Alex Shelley, he's just not eligible unless he makes a tour of the U.S., and that's what I was getting to. An example is Carl Anderson really isn't eligible right now. He's kicking ass in New Japan, but I'm not comfortable with putting him in yet. Now, he's in the Ring of Honor World Title Tournament. So, when he comes to the U.S. that weekend, and you know, anytime after that he's in the U.S., he's eligible. So, you know, Carl Anderson comes in, starts beating the hell out of everybody. Guess what? He's going to be ranked. So that's just kind of a criteria for you. Doug Williams is still eligible because he's wrestled so much in OVW this year that I feel like, you know, the majority of his time's been spent in America in the U.S. Indies. But I'll let you get to the just missing out this week. It's at the bottom.
Alright, just missing out. You got Dylan Bostic, who is the OVW TV champion. He ended the almost 2-month reign of Randy Royal, so I mean that's props. I mean all you gotta do is keep it up, and he'll definitely make it in, I would assume.
Next page for the other. He's the behind the scenes man, but I make him stay on camera sometimes.
He does. He's a jerk.
Yeah, there's other people involved, but I'd say I'm the one that writes it. He's the one that handles some of the technical work, which we both suck at both. So
yeah, so it is what it is. But let's see, Ron Mathis, he had another good week at Rockstar Pro up in Dayton.
And by the way, I want to say hi to Rockstar Pro. They are an awesome indie that if you haven't heard of them, go out of your way to check them out. They've got the Irish Airborne. They've got Matt Taylor, and these guys have been in the Indy Power Rankings. Matt Taylor, Aaron Williams. They've got people like Ron Mathis coming through. Sammy Callahan was there. Nevaeh, so it's Ohio's for Killers territory.
Yeah.
And again, they're up and coming promotion. They run every single week on Wednesday nights. Amped. They're big supporters of the Indy Power Rankings, and we support them. So I'll allow you to continue.
All right, Ron Mathis, he won 2 different 4-ways up there, and one of them got him into the 6-pack challenge for the heavyweight title. So, props to him. Eric Royal, who is a former number 1, he had a decent week at EVO or Pro Wrestling EVO, and Reed Bentley. He's almost there. He beat Ian Rotten this week, and I mean, if anybody knows me, I'm a big Ian Rotten fan. So anybody that beats him, that's props.
Yeah, Reed has actually been on fire lately. He's been wrestling in Dreamwave, which again, there's another promotion that if you haven't checked out, they really seem to be getting their niche right now. They've got Christian Rose, Reed Bentley, Prince Mustafa Ali. Steiner brothers are there tonight. Yes, the Steiner brothers. I believe they're in a 4-way tag team match.
That's awesome.
Might be a 3-way, but yeah, they're in a multi-man tag team match, and so it should be pretty insane. Dreamwave, they're near Chicago, LaSalle, I think, Illinois.
Yeah.
So they're one that they've been really good to us, and I want to give them a shout out. So.
Yeah. Reed Bentley's another guy that, I mean, he's from the Midwest. He's from this area. We know him really well. I'm hoping that the rest of the world gets to know him real soon. He's pretty damn good.
The guy holds a win over Davey Richards
he does.
in a St. Louis, Indy, I believe. And I don't think it could happen to a better wrestler that's up and coming right now. I remember the first time we saw him was like in a, damn, it might as well have been a backyard promotion.
It was in a barn.
The thing about that, though, is that you could tell that he didn't belong. And he's proven that every step of the way, and he's getting better every single week. And the last show we actually saw him at was IWA Mid-South's return show, and he pulled such a jerk move. He came out to Chris Hero's old ring music and then proceeded to cheat a one-legged man out of a win, and that's a shout-out to you, Zach Gowen. I'm actually a big fan. But the entire sequence of events was pretty amusing.
I enjoyed it. And next would be one of my good buddies, Drake Younger. He's the SPW Extreme Champion, or he added that to his collection. I mean, I seen a picture on Facebook earlier. Dude's got 3 titles, and he's about to go for the PWG title.
Yep.
I mean, he goes to California, collects titles. There's no doubt in my mind he's going to creep back into the top 10.
Former Naptown Dragon, I guess current Naptown Dragon.
Yeah, I think they're back together.
Yep.
With him and Scotty.
And Drake, that's another one that we've been watching for years. But yeah, look out for him. I think everybody already knows that, so we don't have to go too far into Drake. If you don't know who Drake is right now, Google.
I'm just gonna say, first time I seen Drake, he was wrestling, in the backyard, and his name was Hilarious. The dude came from a backyard in Indianapolis to, I mean, we're over now. Props to him, and props to everything he's done lately. Cleaned his life up, and he's definitely going to be a mainstay in the Indy Power Rankings. And last but not least would be Mr. Uha Nation. Sorry, Uha. I mean, another guy who wrestles a lot in Japan, but he also does his tour over here. I mean, he technically still lives over here. He was out with a knee injury for every year, right?
Yeah, the ACL tear, and he's actually still FIP Florida Heritage Champion. Uha, he hadn't had a chance to defend that belt. I think when he gets back to the U.S., he's going to be defending against Tommy Taylor of the, I think it's the British Lions. But yeah, it should be pretty good. A couple of big guys going at it. And Uha, again, when we talk about Americans, Gaijin going to Dragon Gate, it ain't easy to win. Rich Swan's been living proof of that. He's yet to make the Indy Power Rankings, and there's a reason for that. It ain't because he's not good.
Because he lives in Japan.
Yeah, he goes to Japan. Go to Japan, you're Gaijin, don't expect to win all the time. But you know what? Expect to get better. And all 3 of the guys that we've mentioned tonight have. So, I believe that's the show for this week. I just wanted to say thank you to some of the companies that have helped us, plugged us. PW Ponderings is one. You can follow them on Twitter at PW Ponderings. Beyond Wrestling is another. Again, they've got a show next week, American Rana. We've already gotten into Rockstar Pro Wrestling. IWA Mid-South has always been big supporters of ours. We're going to actually be doing a few intro videos next weekend. Saturday. We'll be live tweeting, so enjoy our Twitter feed, because I'm sure it's going to be all sorts of cool. But yeah, it's actually featuring Kyle O'Reilly versus Necro, the match I'm most looking forward to. Because if you saw Low Key versus Necro, yeah, this could get bad.
Yeah, this is going to be, I mean, Kyle Riley, I'm going to confirm, is my favorite wrestler out there right now. And that girl's always been one of my guys. And them two just beating the hell out of each other. It's going to be awesome.
Yeah, and the thing is, that show and a lot of people look down on IWA. If you paid attention to what's going on, IWA has their footing solidly underneath them right now, and things are going well. I mean, are they the same rebels they used to be? For the most part, they are. But you know what? You have to be if you're going to run in this area. Trust me on this. And this, I'm not going to sit here and knock companies because a lot of them have changed in different ways. So there's really no point. But the point is, in Kentucky, Indiana, and across the U.S., there's a lot of cutthroat indies out there, and IWA is just trying to stay afloat. And I think they're doing a good job right now. Like I said, next weekend, Zach Gowan's coming in, Jimmy Jacobs, so
Davey Richards.
Yep, Davey, Kyle O'Reilly, and anyway, just IWA Mid-South, thank you for everything. PWF's another one, Pro Wrestling Freedom. They're big supporters of ours. We're going to be at their show covering them. I'll probably write an article for 911wrestling.com covering that show. Kyle Matthews is actually their heavyweight champion. He's one of the 10 wrestlers that the indie wrestlers that you should know, but you don't know yet. So I went backwards on that.
Yeah,
but it's okay. It still goes the same route. But Kyle Matthews, hell of a wrestler. He'll be in PWF whenever we go see him on August 10th. But yeah, check them out. Look them up. I think they're affiliated with PW Ponderings. PW Ponderings is one of the better companies out there helping out the indies. And you know, if I left you out, I'm sorry. I had a long day, but a long weekend. But 911wrestling.com is where you can find some of our articles. PW Scene is where the Indy Power Rankings actually began. Let's see, there's TNA Fan Forum. They actually like to post our rankings. There's a lot of different companies that support us. You can follow us on Twitter at Indy Power Ranking because Twitter's just not that long. It's INDYPOWERRANKIN. So at Indy Power Ranking. And then on Facebook at facebook.com/Indy Power Rankings. I think that's about it. IndyPowerRankings.wordpress.com, I believe.
YouTube.
Yep.
Indy Power Rankings.
Obviously, you found us, so.
I hope so.
So, and like I said, this was our first show for this, and it probably sucked, but I apologize. But I promise you, the list doesn't suck. We know what we're doing. We've been doing this a while, and we've been following the hell out of all of you indies. And if we're missing you guys,
hit us up. Let us know. Facebook.
You can tweet me myself at PhenomenalTLD. PhenomenalTLD.
You can tweet me at Big Von Erich, VICVONERICH. I'm a Joe Wrestle fan. I would assume you know how to spell Von Erich. But Twitter/Big Von Erich.
So yeah, we're like I said, we're gonna support every indie that's out there. You guys, you know, if we miss something, we don't know something. Davey Richards corrected me. I'm still not sure if it's right or not. Maybe Davey and I'll talk about it next week and ask him, you know, what he drank in Mexico. But
if you want us to cover your show live, hit us up. I mean, if it's within driving distance, then we can probably make arrangements.
Yeah, there's a couple other shows that we're probably going to hit up here in the near future. Yeah, we want to support you guys. We want to put you out there. I believe that every indie company needs to grow, and we're going to be here for that. So, with that being said, we're signing off. But hashtag Indy Power Rankings.